Hi, this is Jason from Step Up Physical Therapies, and I have Steve with me today. We're going to interview about his OP rehab and the process he went through to kind of get over his OP. How you doing, Steve?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. It's wet. So I thought where we could start is with just sort of a brief history of how OP came on for you and just a few of the things that you did to try and get over your OP before you kind of found my website and got onto me.
I'm a runner. Run marathons. I run typically 50 miles a week. And probably mid last year, I just started to have groin pain. And it wasn't, bad. Just I started to notice it, and just week by week, it seemed just to get worse and worse. And so I just kind of backed off the training, thinking if that would help, I was just maybe overdoing it. And I kept running on it for probably 4 months. And I kind of came to the last race of the year and decided I'm just going to take some time off, and hoping that would take care of it. I took a full week off, no running, which I hardly have ever done, and then a second week and a third week, and the pain was there, not improving at all. And I probably went another couple weeks, and then eventually got an MRI, and they said I had this thing called Osteitis Pubis, and I'm like, what in the world is that? I've never even heard of that. And basically they said you just need to rest. And that's basically what I did for the next month or two.
So by that point, you'd be at 8 weeks of rest?
Yeah, I didn't just stop all at once. I kind of backed my miles down, and so I was running maybe 20 miles a week and just found that, hey, this isn't getting better yet. I'll back it down to 10. And eventually I got to where I wasn't running at all and was just doing like biking, because biking never seemed to hurt it. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of kept doing the biking. But I always wondered, is that actually keeping it, from healing? So I never knew. I was really in limbo. And I think there was one week I just did absolutely nothing. And, that didn't help either. So I was really getting frustrated, just not knowing what to do.
Yeah, it's a really common thing, the rest thing. I always like to think of it like, if you think common sense, the way our body's wired, right? Like, you get an injury, pain is telling you to stop moving so you can rest it, right? So you can make it better. I think the cruelest thing about OP is just how little rest actually benefits it and how it makes it so much worse, which is how I think it perpetuates into such a chronic problem. It's like, you rest it, you get weaker, it gets worse. You rest it more, it gets weaker, you get worse. It's really the opposite of how almost a lot of other conditions kind of go, because generally you rest, your body gets a chance to heal, you feel a lot better. OP, yeah, really doesn't seem to follow that pattern at all.
Yeah, it was different than any other injury I've ever had. And I've been pretty healthy, but typically 2 or 3 days off of running, and I'm usually good to go again. And this was not like that at all.
No, definitely not fun. So when you jumped onto my site, what was the first thing that drew you into it?
I just think there was a really in-depth explanation of what it was, which was I actually understood it. And the fact there was something you could do about it. You could be proactive, and I'm like, I'm all for that because I've rested and nothing has happened. So, I have nothing to lose. I'm wanting to do something. I'm dying to exercise again. So, I was really, really ready to go.
Okay, so you got in contact with me. We organized to jump onto Skype, and then we would have jumped into a session, and I would have just like bombarded you with information, right, in that first session. How did you find, so I find the biggest issue with OP is exactly what you touched on there. There's just no information on it, and most people are going into it completely blind. Like, they're trying to use processes like rest or stretching, things that they would normally do for an injury, which just aren't adequate and don't help at all. How did you find that first kind of exposure to all this information, and how did you go about kind of processing it and getting your head around it?
I think my takeaway from the first session was like, this person knows what they're talking about. And the fact that you had worked with other clients, I'm like, okay, I can put my trust in this person. He's worked with other people, and he obviously knows anatomy, and he can explain it well, and it all made sense. I'm like, I'm on board, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. So the very first place we started with, I guess, exercise-wise, was the deadlift, which is often almost the very much frustrating place to start in a way, because it's this what seems like a simple movement that kind of then gets more and more difficult as you analyze it and break it down into smaller and smaller pieces. How did you find that process? Because that was probably the first place we started, and it was also one of the harder things you had to do. And for me as well, once you started to really get that, that's when things started to get easier and easier for you. But what was it like that first stage where you're jumping down, you're trying to do this exercise with these rules that I'm giving you to do, and they seem to be the opposite of how your body likes to work? How did you find that whole process?
Yeah, I mean, I had never really done deadlifting. I mean, I knew what it was, but to me, those movements were all to strengthen your quads. And so when I first started doing it, I was targeting the quads, and then my lower back was hurting, and I'm like, this just isn't working. I'm just not getting this. And just the whole movement of, getting your ass back. I mean, it took me a long time, and you just hammered me on that. And finally, I'm like, okay, that's what it's supposed to feel like. I mean, that's where the power is. And then I could actually start adding weight, and it would actually feel good. It's like, okay, I'm starting to get this now.
And I guess the reason I bring that up, I find like the most important thing, and I guess for anyone watching this who has OP, I find the most important thing is like, so you have this piece of information. I have OP and my glutes are weak. I have OP and my core is weak. And they're these two pieces of information that don't really mean anything to your body. They're just these things that you kind of hear. And the thing that I find that's the most important thing to get across is this idea of, oh, you're moving in a way that's breaking your body, and you can move in a way that will unbreak your body and fix it. The difficulty is the way you move has been the way you've probably moved your entire life, and those instincts don't disappear. They take like brutal focus and hard work to just really push out of your body. But once you get there, right, once you can get your ass out, once you really feel your glutes turning on, it feels good, right? Like it's this kind of this change. Your body's like, oh, okay, I can handle this. This feels good. This is how I'm supposed to feel. I don't feel like I'm hurting myself even though I'm lifting really, really heavy weights. And I always find that that's so important because when you've had a chronic injury like OP, you start to feel a bit broken. You feel like you can't use your body, like you can't trust it. And when you start to, I think, really put heavy weights into it and do it and feel safe, it's kind of the reverse message. It's like, oh, I'm not broken. I can do this. This is heavy, but I can handle it. And so if I'm not broken here, maybe I'm not that broken, and maybe I can get better. Does that kind of track with, that's how I always imagine it in my head.
Yeah, I think when my OP was at the worst, you're very careful how you move, like even rolling over in bed. I mean, it would wake me up and you're like, if I can't even roll over in bed, how can I deadlift, 200 pounds? How is that even possible? But I guess in doing the different movements, I found that it doesn't seem to aggravate it. The next day I'd be fine. I'm like, okay, and your confidence begins to build. It's like, okay, this movement, I'm good with this, and let's move on to the next one.
What was the hardest bit of the whole rehab process? What was the bit that kind of was just like, oh, I'm never gonna get this. I just want to bang myself over the head with a brick.
I think the most frustrating thing was just the time it took to videotape, doing a couple of reps and then watching it and realizing, okay, I don't want to send this to you because I already see this as bad. And then just trying to get a tape that was good enough, to actually send it. And then you would be able to pick it apart to that next level. But sometimes, I mean, it would take me an hour just to get one movement to even look halfway decent. And sometimes you remember I'd send you stuff like, I know this is bad. It's the best I can do for now. It's just, I'm working on it. I'm going to get it better. But I mean, seeing you do some of them, I mean, there's just an obvious difference on the way your body moves and the way my body moved. And so I think that was the most frustrating part, but it was very rewarding when I began to get it. And it's like, okay, it's starting to look better now. It's starting to feel better. And so, yeah, that was encouraging then.
It's interesting that, because to me, that's the most important thing, is that going, oh, I can see what I'm doing wrong. Oh, okay, this is bad. I got to change this. I got to move this better. And it's funny because it's in that frustration, right, that you actually create those changes. Like you get pissed off and it makes you do things better. It's funny, like to me, outside of, oh, okay, I'm giving you this information that you need to learn, and you're progressing exercise. I think that one point of just going, oh, I can see I'm moving badly. I have to move better. I think once that sinks in, it's easy to fix any mechanical problem. It's easy, lower back pain, shin pain, knee pain, whatever it is. Once you can see that there's something wrong and you're like, I've got to fix that, I think that's the turning point. At that point, it's just like, oh, okay, I just have to keep fixing things until I start to feel better. Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
At least I know what the process is now. It's not this mysterious, do I rest? Do I not rest? Do I, do I ice? Do I use heat? Do I, should I stretch? Should I not stretch? Do I need to do Pilates? Is Pilates really targeting like all these kind of disparate things when you don't actually know what it is that you're doing exactly that's causing your pain? I think that's often the worst thing.
Yeah, I think there was a point, the maximum frustration was I was doing these movements. It was probably 6 or 7 weeks in.
Uh,
And and you remember, yeah, there wasn't, I felt like I was doing the movements well. And then there was just one day I just mowed the yard. And then I might have, played some tennis with my daughter, just hitting the ball, not really even moving. And I was as sore after that as I had ever been. And I think you said, don't judge your progress by how you feel. You're actually stronger, just keep plugging away. And I kind of just I kind of took a week off and just stepped back and just kind of regrouped and kept going. And then it was shortly after that I started doing little 1 mile runs, and it's like, that didn't feel too bad. I mean, I still feel loose after running, it's still maybe a little sore, but I could tell it was a little different, and then doing another mile run, it's maybe just a little better, and just kind of sticking with it and not worrying that, hey, this movement still kind of hurts, and just don't worry about it. It'll come.
It's funny that because that moment where frustration, it literally happens to everyone in this process. I think it's common to chronic pain conditions where it's just like you just hit the wall and it's just like I just can't get past this. I just don't feel like I've made any progress. And it's funny because it's always at the other side of that where everything gets easy if you can get through that point. But it's interesting, and probably the last thing I really want to talk about is that idea of pain and how when you have a chronic pain condition like you'd had it for so long that your body's just used to it, and it just can't. It's very difficult for it to let go of the idea that it's in pain and that there's something wrong, and that the ability to go and look at yourself, do a video, and go, yeah, I'm doing that split leg kettlebell swing really well. I'm better. I'm feeling better. This pain I'm feeling, I don't need to be worried about it so much. Like if I can do a split leg kettlebell swing, that's harder than running. Then running's not going to be that difficult in comparison. That ability to get to a point where you're like, you know what, I know enough and I know my movement's good that I can start to ignore this, or I can start to make informed decisions about what this pain is trying to tell me. Because I guess in the end, pain is just this message, right? It's trying to tell you that there's something wrong. If you know there's something wrong and you know you're fixing it, then sometimes you can kind of make an executive decision that this pain isn't that useful anymore and that you can kind of move past it. Which is, basically what you did. How is your running feeling at the moment?
It's really good. I mean, I've had 2 40-mile weeks now, and on really hilly terrain, which typically would have aggravated it, like downhill would have been something I definitely would have avoided. But the only, like we talked about, it's just my calves aren't up to speed right now. I don't even worry about the OP. That is not that's not my weak link right now. So.
No, it's funny that for everyone kind of watching this, I transition people into sort of more of a barefoot running style, so taking away the heels, taking away the support. And if you've never done that in your life, the springiness that you need in your calf, and we do plyometrics as well to try and improve that. But that springiness is something that you may never have had access to. So when you get exposed to it, your calves are just like, I haven't had a lifetime being conditioned to this. But I don't know, it's a good problem in a way because you can feel like you're running the right way because the spring in your body, your Achilles tendon, is the one that's taking all the load at the moment now. And it just needs time to condition in a way.
It feels really good though. I mean, getting off your heels is definitely, I feel like I fly through the air farther. I'm anxious to, do another race just to see, where I'm at. So.
One more question, just to wrap up. So if anyone was kind of watching this and you just wanted to give them a bit of advice about, the whole process and how to get over OP, what would you tell them?
I think the main thing is to not worry about how it feels, but I think the program, even if you didn't have OP, you would benefit. Just as a runner, as anything, just getting better movement and better strength in your core in the right way And it's not doing the traditional, machines, just getting bulk muscle for the sake of getting bulk muscle, but I mean, getting muscle that actually benefits you in the motions you're trying to improve. And so, yeah, I think the sooner you get started, the sooner you're going to get better.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Steve. And yeah, and thanks, guys, and hopefully you enjoyed that video. That was real smooth.
How'd we do in time?
Well, so it tells me that the whole call went for 21 minutes.